Hey, it's Nikki Glazer. If I was at the store and I saw a guy throw down Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Ribbed condoms on the counter, I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Nikki. Do you like me?" Boring condoms are a thing of the past. As a girl who can run a little dry sometimes, even when I'm super horned up, I would appreciate a Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Ribbed condom because they have ultra smooth premium lubricant inside and out for a more natural feel. So I don't have to feel insecure like, "Oh, I'm not wet enough." And they have extra deep ribs at the base and end to increase stimulation. So, he thought of me. And the comfort shape allows free movement for a more natural experience. Feel your best. Get yours on.
Se recomienda las dosis de refuerzo de la vacuna contra el COVID-19 para ciertas personas. Para más información visita vaccinate.virginia.gov o llama al 877-829-4682. Mensaje del Departamento de Salud de Virginia.
Welcome to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. Each week we feature an episode from the best independent creators. Subscribe for great scary content. If you would like to help Indie Drop-In support indie creators, you can buy us a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/indie drop-in or click the link in the show notes below. Today's episode is from Nopeville. Welcome to Nopeville, a city where the horrors that make you say nope are rumored to have gathered and made their home. Join your guides, Christine and Jen, on an all-inclusive tour through the city as they introduce you to your worst nightmares from the paranormal, supernatural, true crime, fiction, and nonfiction. If you like today's episode from Nopeville, make sure to check out the show notes for links to subscribe and follow on social media. Enjoy the show.
Begin.
Down this road is a small city once thriving and full of life, but now desolate and abandoned. Well, abandoned save for the horrors rumored to reside within, which I presume is why you're here. Now, there's nothing wrong with a little morbid curiosity, but please, remember to stay close to your guides. We wouldn't want anyone to get left behind now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nopeville, the city filled with horrors and nightmares that make you say nope.
Nope.
Although today we are actually in a forest.
Yes.
A very special forest.
Do you hear the ominous nature of this
Ominous
forest?
nature. This is Slender's forest.
I'm getting creeped
Yes.
out every single second we're standing here, so.
Yeah. It's like electricity trickling on the back of your neck. But before we continue the chills real quick, let us do a 5-star review from Dr. Boomer.
Okay.
Says, "Keep it up. I'm loving the podcast and currently binging now. Great content." Thank you, Dr.
Nice.
Boomer.
Thanks, Dr. Boomer.
And we are your tour guides. I'm Christine.
And I'm Jen.
And welcome to Slender Forest.
Ooh.
Keep your eyes peeled around you. You might spot him. But first, let's go into an account from Creepypasta. I don't know if I heard something or what.
What?
After waking up with a jolt, the girl laid in bed a few seconds longer. Reaching over to switch on her bedside lamp, she tried to remember exactly what had stolen her sweet slumber away. When she couldn't, the brunette swung her legs over the side of the bed and heaved herself up. Checking the time on her phone, she snorted when she saw it was midnight, the witching hour. Knowing that sleep would only evade her, she left the bedroom for the kitchen, a good cup of coffee on her mind. As she passed by her front door, a chill spread like liquid fire down her spine. It's only winter, she told herself, focusing again on the coffee plan. Measuring out scoops, water, and preparing her cup kept her occupied, but as the dark liquid boiled, she had nothing left to keep her mind from wandering off. The chill returned, and she couldn't help but glance behind her to the front door. It stood there, innocently enough, just like always. The deadbolt was still in place, and she could see nothing amiss with it. Turning back to her coffee, she did her best to forget about the feeling. With her cup in hand, she started back towards her bedroom. As she walked by the front door, she decided that a quick glance out of the peephole would help calm her restless mind.
No. Never do that.
The chill worsened with each step she took towards the door and further away from the safety and warmth of her blanket defense.
Right?
She pressed her empty hand against the cold metal door and took a deep breath before leading her eye to the peephole. At first, she could only see an inky blackness and somehow seemed to swirl in itself. When she blinked in surprise, the void melted away. She wished it hadn't. In its place, there stood what she could only guess was once a man. The limbs were long and inhumanly awkward, with bulky joints branching off into several arms, not unlike the branches of a tree. The creature was draped in a black suit, somehow making the thing more nightmarish to her. The icing on the proverbial cake, however, was what passed as the hellish thing's face. It was as though her mind blurred the ghastly visage to spare itself further shock and horror. She shoved herself away from the door with the hand still pressed against it. The scalding mug of coffee fell, the liquid burning her bare legs as she fell backwards and tried to crawl away from the door. She knew, somehow, that her mind hadn't been playing tricks on her. As she crab-walked away from the door, she watched as tendrils as black as the void she first saw snake around through the cracks.
That was a whole sentence of nope. She just crab walked and then his tendrils. And then there was something else. What was it?
Oh, they were coming through the cracks of the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
The girl was trapped between the instinct to flee and the gut feeling to not turn her back on the door. When the door jolted, the urge to flee overcame her and she slipped in the burning liquid as she tried to make it back to her room. She knew deep down that she was trapping herself in a corner, but she had to get away from the door. The girl was halfway down the hallway when she heard the previously locked door creep open. She screamed and slipped into a wall, cracking her chin on it and stunning her. After that, there was only darkness. Nicole? A warm male voice snapped the woman out of her trance. As she turned around, she was met by one of her sister's doctors. She nodded, not sure if she should say anything, or even if she could find her voice if she did have something to say. That morning, she had gotten an urgent phone call from the hospital saying that her sister Lindsay was there. Before they had even let her see her, the doctors had pulled her off to the side and insisted that they talk to her about what might have happened. Phrases like self-inflicted and assault had been thrown around, and Nicole felt her mind reel. She still hadn't fully understood what they were saying until she saw Lindsay with her own eyes. Her little sister had a bandage around her head, covering both of her ears as well as her eyes. They said it was to keep her now deadened eyes from drying out and to try to keep the infection out of the wounds Lindsay had made to her ears.
Deadened eyes.
Yeah. The doctor had guessed that either she or someone else had jammed a pencil into them to keep her off balance or to deafen herself against something.
Ooh.
Yeah. There was a mix of first and second degree burns on her hands, legs, and feet from what was assumed to be coffee her neighbors found spilled all over the entry to her apartment. As Nicole walked to her sister's hospital room the first time, she thought she had spied the silhouette of a man in the window. That, she knew, was impossible. Her sister's room was on the 3rd story of the hospital. And that is the end of the tale.
That's it? What?
That is just one of many stories on Creepypasta about this particular individual.
Yeah, I don't like it.
He doesn't get much better.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know about you, but I know that I had first heard about the Slender Man from your husband when he asked if I'd played the game back when it was a big craze, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, I remember he showed me some weird jingle about the Slender Man.
I don't remember that.
Maybe I'll post it, but it's like some weird jingle where it starts out like all cutesy. It's like, you know, like a 50s kind of bop kind of music. And then it's like at the end, it's like Slender Man's gonna get you. Like it's like, I don't know.
There's one thing your husband is very good at, and that's creeping the fuck out of people.
Yes, because it's very unexpected from him.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect him to be the kind of person to change the background of your PlayStation to the lights out lady.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Or gluing a spider to the bottom of your coffee mug so when you finish your coffee in the morning.
Or gently caressing your back when he knows you're playing a ghost game.
Right. No.
But anyway, who is Slender Man? First appearing in June 2009 in a post on the Something Awful Paranormal thread asking users to essentially create a modern myth with which to terrify the masses. User Victor Surge, real name Eric Knudsen, posted a pair of doctored images featuring children at play with a looming faceless being lurking toward the back of the scenes, clearly unknown to the children.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you want to see in scenes of children at play.
Yeah, I think he just took like the worst possible scenario for anybody, parent or non-parent, where you just have this ominous figure lurking in the background of innocent children.
Yep.
Yep.
He did that intentionally as well.
Yeah, sounds like it.
In one of the photos, he even added an official-looking seal for a library in Sterling City and a caption that read, quote, "One of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze. Notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986, photographer Mary Thomas, missing since June 13th, 1986, end quote." So all of that was captioned under these photos.
It sounds legit, so.
Yeah. Eric intentionally created a being that has a physical description that anyone could call to mind when asked, but kept his motives vague so that anyone could attribute whatever motives they wanted onto him, whatever makes you the most fearful. These images took the internet by storm, and Slender Man dominated the discussion on this particular thread. While many things about him seem up for interpretation or change from source to source, at the most basic level, he is a tall, thin man with a blank face, no hair, and typically dressed in a suit either black or gray with a red or black tie. He could stand anywhere from 6 to 15 feet tall, with unnaturally long arms and legs and long bony fingers. He can sometimes be depicted with black tendril-like appendages sprouting from his back, but not always. After his inception, the internet essentially exploded with poems and drawings and stories of this mysterious and terrifying entity. Other savvy photo manipulators started to create a history for Slender by inserting him into fake newspaper clippings, hieroglyphs, and even into German lore.
Hieroglyphs.
Yeah, they did. There's like cave paintings with Slenderman in them. And even into German lore with Der Grobman, the tall man fighting Der Ritter, the Great Knight. He was inserted into photos and accounts that depicted him often appearing prior to reports of children disappearing and was allegedly used as a cautionary tale for children as far back as 1600 in Germany. He is believed to be most likely to appear in areas that are abandoned and often forested to blend in better with the surroundings and make the likelihood of being able to find help or call emergency services far less possible.
Oh, of course. How convenient.
Yes. How he knows. He's so tech savvy. He was initially portrayed as targeting children exclusively, likely because they tend to be the most curious and easily susceptible to obsessing over any kind of mystery they seek to solve. However, his victims have expanded to adults with videos that surfaced not long after his creation, which I'll touch on in a bit. It is believed that the Slender Man likes to focus his energy and attention on any person that delves deep into finding out who and what he is, so simply looking up pictures or doing a cursory online search won't put you in any risk. Just don't let this search for knowledge take hold into obsession.
I was going to say, we literally just spent hours researching this guy.
But if I were to continue down this rabbit hole, I would be in danger.
It's all for you guys, Taurus. You see what we do for you?
Oh.
You see?
Actually, he does seem to be lurking.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Don't look at him. There seems to be a general consensus that he stalks his victims for variable lengths of time, from hours to days to weeks, months, and even years. It's even speculated that the adults he stalks were actually first discovered and chosen by Slender Man when they were children, and that he just makes his presence more obvious as the years go by. So he's been stalking them since they were children, some believe.
Is it the Hat Man?
Yeah, kind of like the Hat Man.
Am I being stalked by Slender Man?
Maybe.
Oh, fuck.
He will appear anywhere when you least expect him, even around places you find most comfortable, like your home.
Oh, no, that's not fair. No.
His abilities seem to vary from story to story, but an ability to change the length of his limbs and his height and to teleport to places he wasn't seen before seem to be fairly consistent across stories. His teleportation ability can sometimes be referred to as slender walking.
Is that a new dance move? You'll see it on Fortnite.
It's just teleporting around the map. Every time somebody looks away, you're in somewhere else.
Yeah.
These abilities add to what people believe seems to be his primary way of attacking his targets, which they claim is to drive them insane with what is called Slender Sickness. Apparently just add slender to anything, and it now pertains to him.
It's like Batman, where you just add bat to anything, and it's automatically that thing.
Basically. I'm sure they're the same. Slender Sickness apparently results in massive paranoia, nausea, nosebleeds, nightmares, hallucinations, etc.
Sounds like my childhood.
Yeah. The idea is that Slender Man will stay close to his victim no matter where they go, though he won't attack overtly, which is believed to be worse on the mental state of his victim simply because he is always there.
He's there, but you don't know when he's going to attack. He'll just attack when you least expect it.
He's just there, and you don't know when he's going to attack or if he's going to attack at all.
That's scary.
Yeah, but it might even be better to what he apparently used to do. So prior to simply driving his victims insane and then abducting them to disappear forever, Slender Man's attacks would involve impaling his victims on trees and leaving them to bleed to death while I guess he individually removed their organs, bagged them, and put them back where they belong.
The fuck?
Yeah. So early Slender Man used to be much more violent.
What's the point of that?
I don't know. To make you ask that question.
Yeah.
Versions of him after his initial introduction into the internet seem to add another ability, which is distortion of video and audio technology. The degree of the distortion can indicate his level of agitation and proximity, and if the Slender Man is angered, he can potentially charge the aggressor and disappear with them to somewhere unknown.
Uh-oh.
Some other interesting changes to the lore from original to modern include Slender Man did have a face in the original, but it would not be visible on film.
Okay.
Thus, obviously, the initial photos, of course, he doesn't have a face.
So like when you watch The Ring and your face is blurred out.
Yeah. Occasionally, he might be seen wearing hats.
Ha! Okay.
And he would even impersonate humans in the original, but does neither of these things now.
At least he would want you to believe.
Maybe he used to wear a hat back in the day. Maybe the Hat Man is Slender Man.
Yeah, I hate it. Thanks.
I knew you'd like that particular tidbit.
Now I have a whole new nightmare. It's like, hey, let's get her over her fear of the Hat Man and Freddy Krueger, but we're going to reintroduce Slender Man. It's a whole new kind of nightmare.
Basically. Slender Man would gain the trust of his victims and rarely used mind control in original mythos, but now he takes control of his victims and often uses what are known as proxies.
Mm-hmm.
Original Slender Man would aggressively attack his victims, as I mentioned before, and seeing him meant certain death. Whereas now, he's not exactly viewed as dangerous, though seeing him isn't exactly a good omen either.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Pretty much. So it seems to be pretty universally agreed that he's malevolent.
Yeah.
But nobody really says why, aside from the fact that he drives you nuts.
So then you just make your own imagination, and that's what makes it worse.
Slender Man didn't originally concern himself too much with staying hidden, though he would resort to burning evidence in some cases, and was actively under watch by the government. None of those things are true now.
So he's an active arsonist.
Not anymore. He was. He's reformed.
He just watches you.
And most interesting difference to me, besides the idea that he has a face, was that he could actually speak to his victims originally, but now he does not speak at all.
That's even creepier, though.
Yes.
It's like you don't know what he wants.
That's probably why it changed.
Yeah.
Later in June of the same year of his inception, a YouTube channel called Marble Hornets appeared that simply uploaded a series of 87 videos ranging in length from 44 seconds to about 14 minutes. These videos were posted over the course of 5 years and are portrayed to be bits and pieces from a scrapped short student film that a friend of the director was given. In the video describing what the clips are from, it stated that the project was stopped indefinitely near the end of filming due to, quote, unworkable conditions on the set as stated by the director Alex.
Mm-hmm.
It's also mentioned that the crew had noticed increasing levels of stress and irritability in Alex over the 3 months that the project was being filmed. The set was noted as being less than a mile from Alex's home, and that he had planned to burn the tapes that he had filled during the project.
Okay.
The person uploading the videos convinced Alex to release the tapes to them instead, and Alex eventually agreed under the condition that these tapes never be mentioned to him again.
Mm-hmm.
They note that they held onto the tapes without viewing them for 3 years because they had been a bit unnerved and then forgotten about them. Essentially, the clips this person uploads are things of note that they saw while watching the tapes in order to keep a permanent record of them, and it's made clear that there is no particular order to them.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the series takes a bit of a turn to be more focused on the person uploading them, who turns out to be a film school student named Jay.
Mm-hmm.
The focus switches to Jay because in his watching of these tapes, which he notices seem to have a lot of strange audio and video malfunctions, he is also starting to experience a lot of the same things Alex had. The total time of these videos comes out to nearly 9 hours.
Oh, shit.
And we'll provide a link to the channel if you're interested in checking them out, which I actually highly recommend.
We'll post that on our show notes on our website, so check that out.
Yeah, I highly recommend checking them out because I remember looking at them some years ago when I had first heard about them through a YouTuber, and they still come up to this day.
Oh, wow. They're still posting to this day?
No.
No.
But people still talk about them to this day.
Oh, wow.
Essentially, though, it's a beautifully well-crafted, creepy tale of a man being driven mad by the Operator, which is basically Slenderman, who is haunting him and may even be the birthplace of a proxy known as Masky, as well as one called Hoodie, which is used in a video game.
Okay.
Apparently, the series even caught the eye of film critic Roger Ebert when he tweeted about it back in November 2009.
That's interesting. I never thought Ebert and Slenderman existed in the same universe.
Yep. Even he made note of marble hornets. From there, a number of other YouTube channels created their own versions of Slenderman, including Tulpa Effect, Everyman Hybrid, and Tribe 12.
Mm-hmm.
Tribe 12 takes the concept of a young man discovering that his cousin had been tormented by a tall, faceless figure, following him around before he apparently committed suicide.
Oh.
The young man Noah, in turn, also begins to be followed and terrorized by this entity as he investigates what happened to his cousin. Everyman Hybrid is a fitness channel started by a group of friends that starred their very own Slenderman to pull in views, but soon after, the real Slenderman starts to appear in the videos.
So it's a fitness video and Slenderman just in the background?
Yep. But then actual Slenderman starts showing up.
Is that your motivation to continue running?
The group are then plunged into their own mystery involving supernatural horrors, such as the Rake and Slenderman himself.
Okay.
Tulpa Effect takes viewers on a journey of a girlfriend trying to figure out a sudden change in her Slender-obsessed boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
This series calls into being the idea that Slenderman, while not actually real, of course,
Sure.
could be made real by how many people constantly talk and obsess about something they truly believe to be real.
It's like Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
She exists
Clap
because
if you believe.
Exactly.
Keep clapping. Beyond these 4 channels are tons more that make up what is called an ARG, or alternate reality game, which we will share a master page of that I found that seems to have them all listed to check out if you're interested.
Cool.
Each creator notes that the Slender Man is the perfect horror entity simply because of how ambiguous he is, which enables all types of creators to make their own mark on the entity, and it is simply absorbed into the ever-changing story.
Yeah, so he's just like a creepy entity as is, and then horror creators can do what they want with him.
He's a literal blank canvas.
Yeah.
In 2012, Slender the 8 Pages took over the YouTube Let's Play and reaction communities in a craze that was popularized by PewDiePie.
I don't think I ever watched PewDiePie do it. I think I watched Markiplier do it.
I watched Markiplier do it as well.
Yeah.
But PewDiePie is credited with being the one who kind of brought every other Let's Player's attention to the game.
Okay.
The game took inspiration from a slightly older game called Slender Man and involved placing the player in a forest in the middle of the night with only a flashlight which had a limited battery.
Mm-hmm.
Players are forced to make their way through the forest, searching for, what else? 8 pages of drawings throughout the map. The entire time, the creeping threat of the Slender Man becomes more and more apparent with each page collected. So your screen gets more and more fuzzy, everything gets more foggy.
Distorted.
Yep, and he's just around every corner. In 2013, a game giving some context to the Slender the 8 Pages situation appears called Slender the Arrival.
Mm-hmm.
The story for this game was written by the original creator of Slenderman, Eric Knudsen, as well as the cast of Marble Hornets.
That's cool.
Players take control of a character called Lauren as she attempts to avoid Slenderman and his proxy Masky, and figure out what happened to her missing best friend Kate. In Season 14 of Criminal Minds, an episode titled The Tall Man uses elements from the inspiration Slenderman had on a couple of young ladies, and starts the episode out with 3 teenage girls in the woods after dark.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is seeking the Tall Man, a local legend that haunts the woods, and if he catches you, he cuts you until you reveal your deepest secrets to him.
Okay, I don't even need him to cut me to do that. He just needs to threaten to cut me, and I'll be like, I'll tell you anything.
He needs to literally just appear in front of me and say, tell me your deepest secrets. Okay.
Okay.
I don't really have any, but you can have whatever.
I know, right?
The other 2 girls follow, but with their own motives that make them seem like they're possibly planning to attack the one girl.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, the story ends up being an elaborate setup by one of the girls partnered with her secret boyfriend to find out where a piece of stolen jewelry was hidden.
Okay.
I know, it's dumb.
That's a weird turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Season 16 of Law & Order SVU, there is an episode titled Glasgow Men's Wrath, which is essentially a dramatization of the actual criminal events that Tour Guide Jen will be taking us to, and is pretty accurate to what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I did find that in 2018, a Slender Man movie did in fact release in theaters.
Did they go through with it?
They did indeed.
Okay.
And it earned itself a whopping score of 8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So that is below the threshold in which your tour guides will watch.
Yes, needless to say, I opted not to check this one out. Though I did find a nearly 4-minute long video on YouTube that compiled every single appearance of the title entity for the 93-minute film.
So he prepared for 4 minutes in a 93-minute film. Okay.
Based on those 4 minutes alone, I'd say the 8% score is likely quite warranted, though it is interesting to note that the man who originally created Slender was involved in the writing of this film adaptation of the made-up character.
Yeah, but he probably didn't have much control. They probably just involved him to get more hype
what does he
behind
look
it.
like? Yeah.
Yeah, but then he probably didn't actually have much say into what Hollywood wants.
Allegedly he wrote it. But based on the Slender the Arrival game and the little bit I saw of this movie, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Unless Marble Hornets had way more to say in the game than he did. So I don't know. Slender Man also seems to bear some physical resemblance to the Silence in Doctor Who and the Gentleman in Buffy the Vampire Slayer with bald heads, pale skin, and suits.
The silence are creepy.
Yes, they are.
I don't like the silence.
The what?
What's this tick on my arm?
Yep. The Enderman in Minecraft may also have taken some inspiration from the Slender Man with its long limbs and teleportation abilities, though its behaviors are more like SCP-096 in that it becomes hostile if observed.
Don't look at me.
Yep, stop it, don't look at my face! With that, let's go over to a real-life horror that found its way tied up in the legend that is Slender Man, but let me leave you with these quotes from a university professor in 2014. Quote, "What Slender Man shows us is the amazing speed and power of the internet to spread the stories.
Yep.
The awful events in recent days may see interest in Slender Man decline, or it may continue in a different way, depending on how contributors and fans react. But one thing is for sure, there will be stories. Folklore doesn't die." End quote.
Yeah, which is true, because in all the history of the folklore that we give you, they go all the way back to like the beginning of time.
And they're still around, much like Slender Man. Don't look over your shoulder.
Hey, it's Nikki Glazer. And even reading about Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Rib condoms is kind of getting me juiced up, if you know what I'm saying. Each Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Rib condom has ultra smooth premium lubricant inside and out for a more natural feel. You guys know I love lube. I don't leave home without it. And now I'll leave my bottle at home and just bring the condoms. Also, they have extra deep ribs at the base and end to increase stimulation. So these condoms are for both of you, really. This condom has a unique design that lets you feel the pleasure and not the condom. To be honest with you, if I went out with a guy and when we're getting down, he brings out a Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Ribbed condom, I'd be like, this dude knows what he's doing and he's considered me in this. Thank you. When I think condoms, I think Trojan condoms. So try Trojan Ecstasy Ultra Ribbed condoms. Triple tested and trusted for over 100 years. Feel your best. Get yours on.
¿Vives en Virginia? Si recibiste la vacuna contra COVID-19, sigues estando protegido. Este otoño estaremos poniendo dosis de refuerzo para ayudar a prolongar esa protección. No olvides que el Departamento de Salud de Virginia sigue siendo tu mejor fuente de información sobre el COVID-19. Para saber si puedes recibir la dosis de refuerzo y programar una cita, visita vaccinate.virginia.gov o llama al 877-829-4682. Este es un mensaje del Departamento de Salud de Virginia.
If you love to be remembered as the person who gives the best birthday gifts, I'm here to tell you that 1-800-Flowers.com is your ultimate birthday gifting destination. 1-800-Flowers has thoughtful and artfully created options that are guaranteed to deliver the best birthday surprise. Shop thousands of unique gifts at 1-800-Flowers.com for exclusive offers and great values. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
Okay, so like tour guide Christine said, we're going to go into a real-life horror story based off of Slender Man.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, Payton Leutner and Morgan Geyser were typical 12-year-old best friends growing up in Waukesha, Wisconsin. They had done everything together since they were in elementary school. Payton said that she became friends with Morgan when she had seen her sitting eating lunch by herself one day, and Payton said no one should be alone and offered to sit with her. Payton was a hopeful, positive animal lover who always tried to see the good in people. They were inseparable since they'd have sleepovers, play outside together, and draw, and for all intents and purposes, Payton thought Morgan to be a normal, happy girl. She said Morgan was funny and had a lot of jokes to tell, and that she was good at drawing and her imagination always kept things fun. When the girls entered 6th grade, there was a new girl in their class, Anissa Weier. She quickly made friends with Morgan, and the two hit it off instantly through their love of reading horror fiction. Morgan's mother described her childhood as a normal little girl, but she also endured a lot of bullying until Payton became her one and only friend. She used to be a happy child who loved singing and making up stories. Anissa's mother said she was always imaginative and would always come up with elaborate stories for her Barbie dolls, but looking back, she remembered Anissa was never really invited to a lot of things and didn't really make friends easily.
Okay.
With their similar interests and tendency to be secluded from other children, Anissa and Morgan's friendship blossomed and the two became closer. One of Anissa's favorite pastimes was reading stories posted on Creepypasta Wiki. She said that whenever she found herself bored, she would just open up her iPad and read a few stories. When Anissa came across the story of Slender Man, she just had to share it with her new friends. Morgan took a liking to the story just as much as Anissa. However, when Morgan tried to share her new interest with Payton by constantly sending her links to new Slender Man stories and showing her photos, she said she didn't really like the Slender Man stories because they frightened her. But she went along with it because Morgan was her best friend and that's what she was into, so she wanted to support her.
Oh, that sounds like us when we were younger and me constantly harassing you with
ICP. That's okay. I send you K-pop stuff now and I don't care what you think. I'm just like, look how cute he is.
That's true. I just lol.
It wasn't long when Morgan and Anissa were deep into their obsession with Slender Man that Payton was beginning to believe that Morgan and Anissa actually believed that Slender Man was real. Payton's mother offered to read a story with her and asked her, quote, "Does this sound like this could possibly be real?" And Payton responded, quote, "No, but Morgan knows he's real." Payton said she and Anissa weren't really close and that she was more of Morgan's friend than both of theirs. She said Anissa was mean to her and she felt that Anissa might be jealous because Morgan was also friends with her, not just Anissa.
Right.
The more Morgan learned about Slender Man, the more it plagued her mind and she became closer with Anissa. The two girls lived in the same apartment complex and rode the same school bus together. Plenty of time separate from Payton to further dive into the Slender Man lore. Payton said she even considered ending her friendship with Morgan because she saw a drastic change in her when Morgan met Anissa, but ultimately she decided to stay friends with her because she didn't want Morgan to be alone. On Friday, May 30th, 2014, the three girls were going to have a slumber party to celebrate Morgan's 12th birthday. Payton was super excited and giddy about the party. That night, they went to Skateland, then got some frozen yogurt and went to Morgan's house to continue the sleepover afterward. That night, Morgan wanted to go to bed early, which struck Payton as odd because in their past sleepovers, Morgan would always want to stay up all night. Brushing her suspicions aside, they all went to bed. The next morning, the girls had breakfast, played dress-up, and decided to go play in the nearby park. Normally, Morgan wasn't allowed to go to the park without an adult, but her mother made an exception since they were celebrating her birthday. It was there that their lives changed forever. After taking a walk around the park, the girls decided to do something else. With Morgan's suggestion, they decided to play a game of hide-and-seek in the woods. Morgan would count, and Anissa and Payton would hide. Anissa and Payton found a spot, and Anissa told Payton to lie down on the ground and cover herself with sticks and leaves to hide herself better. That's when Anissa yelled, "Now, go ballistic, go crazy, make sure she's down." And Morgan pounced on Payton and proceeded to stab her multiple times with a 5-inch kitchen knife she had taken from her home. When the girls stopped attacking Payton, they took a step back and just stared at their friend blankly. Payton said, quote, "I trusted you," to the girls. When she tried to get up, she couldn't. She couldn't see, she couldn't walk, and she couldn't breathe.
Right.
Anissa had told her to just lay there and rest and she'll bleed out slower. Morgan and Anissa told Payton they were going to go get help, but Payton knew in her heart that her so-called friends weren't going to get that help.
Right. Smart girl.
After the girls ran away, Payton used the last strength she could muster and pulled herself up using a tree for stability. She dragged her wounded body out of the woods to a nearby grassy patch when her fatigue took over and she lay down. A bicyclist riding by noticed her and stopped to ask if she was okay. She told him she was stabbed by her friend Morgan and she needed help. He called 911 and soon help arrived for Payton. The police officer that got the initial call couldn't believe that this little girl was stabbed and maybe she just injured herself on a tree branch or something, but he quickly realized she was in grave condition when he arrived on scene. Payton was then rushed to the hospital. Payton's mom was notified by detectives that her daughter had been stabbed and she was being taken to the hospital. She met her there and was able to see Payton before she was taken into surgery. She overheard the nurses counting the wounds on Payton's body, totaling to 19, with 2 wounds in life-threatening areas, her diaphragm and within the cardiac box.
Shit.
She had trouble breathing and speaking due to the wound in her diaphragm. The surgeon said that if the knife wound near her heart was just the width of a human hair over, a major artery would have been cut and she would have bled out in mere minutes. Just the width of a human hair. Like, that's not even a millimeter.
Hardly missed.
19 times.
Yeah.
While Payton was in surgery for over 6 hours, the girls were on the run. Police utilized everything they had, from helicopter air patrol to canines, in search of them. 5 hours after they had stabbed their friend and left her for dead, they were located sitting alongside a highway in northern Waukesha. They were immediately taken into custody and interrogated separately by 2 different detectives. Thinking back on that day, Payton had said, quote, "They just wanted to go on a walk, and I didn't think much of it. It's just a walk. It's Waukesha. What bad stuff happens in Waukesha, Wisconsin?"
Right.
End quote. She said when she was stabbed, at first she didn't feel anything and attributed that to the sheer amount of adrenaline coursing through her body. All she could remember is saying, "I trusted you," and knowing that her best friend had broken her trust. When she woke up from her surgery, the first thing she thought was, did they get them? Are they there? Are they in custody? Are they still out? It was relieved to know that the police had actually captured them.
Good.
For the first week of her recovery, Payton wasn't able to communicate due to her wounds. She had to write on a whiteboard. She said she was so traumatized from the attack that for a while she'd sleep with her mother because she was afraid of being alone and wouldn't even open any of the curtains. She would lock every door and window in fear that they were going to come after her again. Even during this 2020 interview 5 years later, when she was 17 years old, she said she still slept with a broken pair of scissors near her just in case.
Oh, man.
Yeah. When she was told the motive behind the attack, she said it didn't surprise her at all because Morgan believed so hard in Slender Man that she would do anything for him. In this case, the girls believed that they had to kill someone to prove their worth, to be a proxy to Slender Man, like you said. And in doing so, they could live with him in his mansion in the middle of Nicollet National Forest. However, she was surprised by the fact that the girls readily confessed to their attempted murder when they were caught and had been plotting it for months. While being interrogated, Payton was still in surgery, so detectives didn't know if this was a homicide case or something else at that point. Anissa and Morgan detailed their big plan and admitted that they had been scheming for 6 months and picked the day, Morgan's birthday. They'd even talk about their plan in front of Payton, but they'd use code words so no one else around would understand. They'd use words like cracker for knife and itch for the killing.
Oh my God.
They even said that the plan they went with was actually one of 3.
Oh my God.
Their original plan was to kill Payton while she was sleeping that night at the slumber party, hence why Morgan was adamant about going to bed early. So they would kill her by first duct taping her mouth shut, then stabbing her in the neck and running away. Anissa and Morgan both had their bags packed to make their escape. The girls decided against this plan because Morgan said they were too tired and sleepy from spending the day at Skateland, and Morgan had said she would want to give Payton one more morning.
How kind.
Yeah, right? The next morning, while Payton was putting on a pink princess costume when the girls were playing dress up, Anissa and Morgan were plotting yet again. They changed the venue to the park. They would lure her into the bathroom, sit her down on the toilet, and stab her there after knocking her unconscious. They thought about this plan so much, and they saw that there was a drain in the bathroom where the blood could flow. Anissa said she read on creepypasta that it's easier to kill someone who's asleep or unconscious, so when they were in the bathroom, she even attempted to knock Payton out by hitting her in the forehead, so her head would hit the concrete wall behind her. When this didn't work, the girls gave up and devised another plan.
Oh my God.
Which, at this point, why isn't Payton like, what the fuck, guys? I don't want to play with you guys anymore.
I know. And I mean, it still also bothers me that the reason she didn't want to stop being Morgan's friend is because she didn't want Morgan to be alone. But you knew that the other 2 were growing closer, so she wouldn't have been alone. Maybe she thought that Anissa would abandon her or something. Like maybe Payton was just like, I wouldn't abandon Morgan. Right. I'm not going to be the
Anissa
one.
Would.
Yeah. Ends the friendship.
That's what I thought too, where I'm like, Morgan wouldn't be alone, but then I wonder if Payton didn't trust Anissa and thought Anissa would abandon Morgan.
Yeah.
But at this point, so this was in the 2020 interrogation clips, and Anissa said that she tried to do this, and I'm like, then what happened? Like, why did Payton continue playing with you guys that day?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody just banged my head against the wall, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm done, guys.
Yeah, I'm leaving. I'm going home.
Plan number 3 of their, quote, flawless plan, to quote Morgan, was to lure her into the woods and stab Payton there. They first took a walk around the park, then Morgan proposed a game of hide and seek. That's when everything went down. Initially, when Morgan had shown Anissa that she had a knife, Anissa thought, quote, dear God, this is really happening. In the bathroom, the girls lost their nerves and passed the knife back and forth between each other, telling each other that they should be the one to do it. Like, no, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it.
Yeah.
Then Morgan had said that she'll do it only if Anissa told her when to do it. That's when they were playing hide and seek in the woods. Anissa screamed, "Now go ballistic."
Mm-hmm.
Anissa said she and Morgan were going to be like lionesses chasing down a zebra and tackle her, and then Morgan was going to do the stabbing.
That's gross.
Payton said she remembers this moment, and she remembers hearing them chatting when she was down on the ground. Anissa said just before Morgan pounced on top of Payton, she said, "Don't worry, I'm only a little kitty cat," and then pounced on her and stabbed her multiple times. These interrogations were so creepy. Like, they're so disturbing.
I saw some of them in an HBO documentary, and these girls...
Yeah, you can't believe that this is what's coming out of these 12-year-old girls' mouths.
Yeah, they don't look like they should be talking like this is what they do.
Mm-hmm. During the interrogation, Morgan had said about Payton when Payton was just up for doing whatever that morning, quote, "People who trust you become very gullible," and it was sort of sad. This was just the tip of the iceberg for Morgan's interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2020 documentary, they go back and forth between Anissa and Morgan's interviews, and Morgan very clearly has no remorse, but she also constantly puts the blame on Anissa.
Mm-hmm.
When asked what she was trying to do when she stabbed Payton, Morgan said, quote, "Kill her. I might as well just say it. We were trying to kill her." End quote. Then she asked, why did they pick Payton? And she said, quote, "I didn't pick her." And the detective asked, who picked her? And she said, whoever Anissa was talking about. She made it seem necessary.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing, like, where Anissa was the one explaining what and who Slender Man is, where the other one was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't do it. Anissa. I'm doing what Anissa told me to do.
Yeah.
The detective asked her if they had talked about doing this beforehand, and she said, quote, "Anissa told me we had to because she said that he'd kill our families."
Mm-hmm.
The detective asked, who's he? And she said, a man. I didn't know him, but Anissa knew him.
Yeah.
Morgan said that Anissa was the one that grabbed the knife and hid it in her backpack, but Anissa said that Morgan hid the knife in the waistband of her pants, that Morgan revealed to her when they got to the park. Morgan said she didn't really know what they were doing, and she didn't want to make Anissa mad, and that it's hard enough to make friends. She didn't want to lose someone over something like this. Yet you're gonna fucking kill your friend.
Because she doesn't want to lose Anissa.
You're going to kill your only friend.
No, not only friend. She can be better friends with Anissa if she murders Payton.
Yeah. She wouldn't have any friends if it wasn't for Payton.
Yeah.
When asked who stabbed Payton, Morgan said both of them did. Then the detective asked who stabbed her first. And Morgan let out an exasperated sigh and said, "How am I supposed to remember that?"
Oh my God.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Then the detective said it was really important and told her to just try and concentrate. She said, "Anissa or me, one of the two, of course, but I don't know."
Yeah, because that answered the question better than what you said before.
He asked her what happened next, and she said, "Stab, stab, stab, stab."
Oh my God.
Yep. Then he asked her what happened after the stabbing, and Morgan got upset, saying, "Are you trying to make me tell it over and over again to see if I tell the story differently?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Morgan told the detective that for a long time, Payton was her only friend. He asked her why did she hurt her only friend, and she said it was necessary. When she was asked if she felt bad about stabbing one of her best friends, she said, "I thought about it, but then I decided remorse would get me nowhere. It's easier to live with no regrets."
So in the HBO documentary, I watched a little bit of, they were interviewing Morgan's mom, and she talked about a time when she first exposed Morgan to the movie Bambi, and that they'd been worried about showing her the movie because they were, kids will get sad about the death of Bambi's mom, and they were afraid of,
The movie's brutal.
Yeah, they were afraid of, how she would react to that. And they said that when they watched it, she didn't react at all. It was just more of a run, Bambi, save yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I fucking cried. I still do.
Yeah. That's a brutal movie. That shouldn't be shown to kids.
Literally every Disney movie of my childhood shouldn't be shown to kids.
Right. I think my friends and I, back when I was like in middle school or high school, we were trying to list all the movies, all the Disney movies where someone doesn't die, and it was so hard.
It's like impossible. It still is, but it's cuter now.
I guess.
I don't know. I guess it gets to the point sooner. I don't know, because like
they mask it better.
Yeah, like even in Frozen, like their parents die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But kids love that movie.
But let it go.
Yeah, kids love that movie.
So in the interrogation, she said, "It was weird. I felt no remorse. I thought I would. I actually felt nothing." Then the detective said, "Do you think stabbing your friend is right or wrong?" And she responded, "Probably wrong. If it were right, I wouldn't be here."
Wow.
Yeah. From a 12-year-old's mouth.
Just wow. Is she the same one that was like, you keep asking me this so that you'll see if I change it? Okay. It creeps me out how well she understands how law enforcement operates.
Yeah, we'll find out why.
Okay. Great. Fascinating.
Then he asked, what did you think was going to happen after you stabbed Payton? And she said, I don't really know. I figured I'd get in trouble eventually, though, because Mommy always said that whatever you do will catch up to you eventually. And it did. At one point during the interrogation, Morgan asked, do you know what happened to Bella? Is she dead? Bella was the nickname Morgan had given to Payton since there was another Payton in their class. So Morgan and Anissa called her Bella.
I don't know why that grosses me out, but it does. It's just, I don't know.
Because it's a Twilight thing?
No, I think it has more to do with, like, I think Bella means beautiful in, like, Italian. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like such a sweet nickname to give somebody you murdered, tried to murder. Kill. Yeah, like, I think that's really what makes me, like, feel skeeved out by the fact that they call her, Bella.
Yeah. The detective said, I don't know. I know she was taken to the hospital. And Morgan said, what? I was just wondering. And she was very nonchalant about it. Like she couldn't care less. And she was sitting really relaxed in the chair. The chair was backwards. And she just had her head resting on the back of the chair, just like all blasé. She's just like, I don't care. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
When Morgan is alone in the room at one point, the security cameras catch her dancing and twirling around. And at one point, she's even singing.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like twirling and like doing a little jig and stuff. Like she doesn't fucking care.
La-di-da, just another day in the interrogation room.
This was totally in contrast to Anissa. She appeared scared and was even crying at the beginning of her interrogation. She told everything truthfully and would clearly state what Morgan did and then would take responsibility for things that she played a role in. Mm-hmm. She confessed she was the one that introduced Morgan to Creepypasta and Slender Man. She said she truly believed he was real, because she claimed she saw him one day while riding the bus. Mm-hmm. She said she looked out the window and at first she saw what might have been a tree, but when she looked closer, it was Slender Man standing there with his tendrils out. Mm-hmm. Then he disappeared in an instant. She said she was scared to know that he could kill their families and loved ones within 3 seconds and wanted to appease him. She said that it was Morgan who said that they had to kill Payton.
I wonder what story they read that made them think that Slender Man...
I don't know, because Slenderman doesn't have an original story.
No,
like
really
he has those photos and then other people made stories about it. So I'm just wondering what they read to get to this particular storyline.
Yeah, it clearly came off of the Creepypasta wiki, which I only got the one story from.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that they've got like this impression that isn't even, if there's like a whole Slenderman fandom wiki, that's not even listed as a thing he does.
Just kill people within a matter of seconds.
Kill families of people he's targeting. He literally targets a person or, multiple people. He'll target people. So say he's been targeting me and then you and I are walking and he spots you as well. Then he'll start targeting you as well. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't just like appear in your house, murder your family. And like, haha, you should have killed somebody for me.
Yeah. Did any of the Slenderman lore involve this mansion either?
No. They say he takes you to somewhere unknown. And also that people that are tormented by him eventually disappear without a trace.
Okay.
That's it.
So you don't have to kill to appease him.
I didn't look into what goes into becoming a proxy. I think I did once upon a time and there was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just really curious to know what story they read.
Yeah, there must have been something with proxies.
In all the Slenderman lore I know, like doing more research into this case, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So if anybody knows what story they were talking about,
let us know,
because I'm curious. During her interview, she asked where Payton's body was, and the detective told her she was at the hospital. And she said she thought her body might still be out there in the crime scene because she thought that Payton had died. When the detective told her that she was alive, Anissa just responded, okay. Anissa said that the bad part of her wanted Payton to die, but the good part of her wanted her to live.
Oh, okay. The proxy part of you wanted her to die, but the...
Yeah.
You part of you didn't
the part that gets me to Slender Man wanted you to die, but the other
right.
part that's like, what if Slender Man's not real? Maybe you shouldn't die.
Yeah.
After the interrogations, detectives were convinced that Morgan was the one that did the stabbing and that she was the ringleader behind this whole ordeal. While Anissa seemed truthful and honest, Morgan would place the blame on Anissa or flat out say she doesn't remember something because it's fuzzy and she's trying to block it out. Detectives said she even knew tactics police used, knew about the criminal justice system, and she knew about previous cases. They said that if she wasn't a 12-year-old girl, they'd think that she was a veteran criminal. Mm-hmm. Morgan's mother was shocked that she even had the capability to do something like this because she said the Morgan she knew was a normal little girl that wouldn't hurt a fly.
Right.
She knew about Morgan's fascination with Slender Man because Morgan would show her pictures and read her stories, but she didn't think it was odd because when she was 11, she was reading Stephen King novels and could pinpoint a memory of her checking out it at the local library and then riding her bike home to read it. The difference here, though, is that she knows that Pennywise isn't real, whereas Morgan was convinced that Slender Man was.
Yeah, like...
So, like, it's okay, like, if you were reading, like, Stephen King novels when you were her age, but, like... You knew that they were fiction. She doesn't. She can't discern fact and fiction.
Yeah, but that's something fundamentally wrong inside her brain. Like,
yeah,
it wouldn't be an automatic, like, oh shit, something's wrong. If my kid were to come to me and be like, hey, look at this new creepy thing I found.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, cool.
Like, in this instance, like, I agree with Morgan's mother in that, like, she
wouldn't have been a red flag.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a red flag to her because to her, she's like, yeah, I used to read that stuff when I was her age too.
Now, the not caring about Bandy's mom dying would have been a red flag for me. And that came first.
Maybe. But I don't know. Kids are weird.
I know, but she clearly has sociopathic tendencies.
Yeah. When investigators looked in Morgan's room, they found disturbing drawings and writings about malicious things. They even discovered drawings that said, I want to die, I love killing people, the pain is inside, and a picture of a girl hanging with the word escape next to it.
Wow.
So all these were hidden, like, in her closet, in her drawers. Like, if you were to just walk into her bedroom, it would just look like a normal 12-year-old's bedroom. But when they did more digging, they found these things. So she was clearly trying to hide it.
Yeah.
They found Barbie dolls with limbs and heads cut off with red painted around the fake amputation points.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were disturbing. They showed photos of this. When they looked at the family computer, they saw searches related to how to get away with murder and what kind of insane am I. So she was trying to figure out what was wrong with her.
Yeah, so she knew.
And why she had these thoughts. Yeah, she knew, but she wasn't telling anybody that she was having these things.
Mm-hmm.
When they looked into what books the girls were checking out at the school library, there was an obvious theme. They checked out books related to crime scene investigations, prison, and mental health conditions, which is why Morgan knew the police tactics.
Right.
And how, if you're asking me to repeat my story over and over again, that means you're trying to see if I changed something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's like, we're probably going to get caught, so I may as well be ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Inside of Anissa's locker at school, they found one picture of Slender Man, but Morgan's locker is where the gold mine was. It had more drawings of Slender Man and notebooks filled with writings about him. They looked at Anissa's cell phone and they found what seemed to be a goodbye note. It said, quote, "This is my final wish to those who care. Do not grieve my absence, but remember me for who I was. I love and cherish you all and wouldn't do you harm." End quote. But she'll do Payton harm.
Yeah, clearly.
I have to kill her before I can leave you.
Yeah.
When they looked at Anissa's iPad, there were so many hits for Creepypasta Wiki and Slenderman. She even had her own personal email account and lied about her age in order to open it, because you have to be 13 to have your own email account.
Mm-hmm.
A week before the attempted murder, Morgan sent an email to Anissa telling her to make sure she deletes her browser history.
Jesus.
Which solidified that Morgan did in fact know right from wrong. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
The girls were tried as an adult due to the severity of their crime, which is legal in Wisconsin for anyone who commits such a horrendous crime after the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
This is why their names and photos were able to be released to the public. Normally, if you're a child and you commit a crime, it's anonymous. All that stuff doesn't get released. The courts aren't public. Trials aren't public, things like that.
I remember before the judge made the ruling, they couldn't take pictures of their faces specifically. Like, they could take pictures in court, but they couldn't take pictures of their faces in court.
Yeah. So they were charged with first-degree intentional homicide. They both pleaded not guilty by reason of mental defect or disease. Later, Anissa took a plea deal and pled guilty by reason of mental defect or disease, which Payton's family agreed with, since with this deal, Payton didn't have to testify and relive the horrible nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Anissa was diagnosed by 3 professionals with having shared psychotic disorder.
Okay.
So she had this tendency to share in the psychosis of someone else, and she just so happened to become best friends with somebody who actually had
with an actual sociopath.
Yes. After 11 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted her of not guilty by reason of mental defect or disease, and she was committed to the maximum of 25 years in a mental institution. So this was for Anissa.
Right.
Then it was Morgan's turn. Morgan was diagnosed with early onset schizophrenia, and Morgan's mother wasn't surprised because there's a history of mental illness in her family because Morgan's father has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. This is unusual for a child this young to be diagnosed, which is why they call it early onset schizophrenia, which is probably why no one saw the warning signs and red flags before this tragedy occurred. A child psychologist said that it was very hard to diagnose psychosis at that age unless Morgan came forward with her symptoms, and based off of her notebooks and stuff, she was hiding it.
Yeah.
But honestly, at 12 years old, you're just hitting puberty. No one understands the changes in their bodies that you're going through. Like,
I mean, also mental health is just frowned upon and just not viewed properly in this country.
She probably felt like she had nobody she could talk to. Like, she couldn't talk to her mom. She couldn't talk to her friends. And it's like, in her mind, she's having these things happening to her. She doesn't understand why, which is why she Googled it. What kind of insane am I? In hopes for some answers.
Yeah, and like therapy is so frowned upon, and people, mental health is super important, and I'm hoping the stigma is starting to go away.
During Morgan's sentencing, she broke down saying she was sorry to Payton and her family, and she never meant for this to happen. She was ultimately sentenced to 40 years in mental institution, where she would be treated for her schizophrenia.
Good.
Morgan's mother said she felt that she had failed as a mother because as a mother, it's your job to protect your child and keep them safe, and she didn't. She blamed herself for not seeing that her daughter was unwell. Payton said that she thinks about Morgan's mom often and how she knows people might blame her for raising Morgan wrong or not seeing the signs of her psychosis. However, Payton knows it's not her mom's fault.
Yeah.
This happened because Morgan's schizophrenic and there was nothing her mom could do about it.
Yeah.
So Payton forgives Morgan's mom, but not necessarily Morgan yet.
I mean, to be fair.
Yeah. Morgan's mother said this about Payton and her family, quote, "I'm so sorry for what Payton went through and for what they must have gone through. I would take it back if I could. I hope that they can understand that it wasn't the Morgan that they knew who did this to their daughter, that Morgan was sick. She wasn't in control of her brain, and I hope that maybe someday they can forgive her. When you send your child to another family's home, you trust that family to keep your child safe while she's there, and I'm sorry that we didn't." End quote. A child psychiatrist said that to place all the blame on Morgan and say that she led this underestimates the power of schizophrenia and the power of the internet and its influences on people to behave in ways they wouldn't behave in real life.
Right.
With her schizophrenia, she was being guided by the voices that ordered her to kill someone, and that voice manifested as Slender Man for her. So in this documentary, there is a quick blurb of her father who is being treated for schizophrenia. He said, when you have schizophrenia, you believe that the devil is in the back seat. You know that the devil's not in the back seat, but the devil's in the back seat at the same time. And then he started crying.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know it's not real, but at the same time, you believe it's real.
Like pretty much all mental health, depression, you know the things you're thinking aren't true, but your brain's like, no, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
Because the
and
brain's
with anxiety,
powerful.
like your brain's telling you this thing's going to happen when you know it's really unlikely for it to happen, but you know it's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can't necessarily blame Morgan for what she did because she did have an untreated, undiagnosed mental illness.
Yeah, it sucks that the way to find out had to potentially
like this.
had to potentially cost another little girl her life.
Yeah.
Thankfully, she didn't, but the fact that she now lives in fear for the rest of her life, I mean, hopefully maybe it's better now-ish.
The principal at the school the three girls attended said that they were all good students with no history of bad behavior. He said, quote, "They were just normal students. They participated in class. They were just your everyday type of students." And he said that he had never heard of Slender Man and it never made its rounds around the school, so everyone pretty much found out about him at the same time. One student said about the girls, quote, "They were tight, like best friends. I just don't get it. I mean, I've always had a hard time trusting people, and I've always thought that you can only really believe in your family. I was starting to get over that and start to trust people. Now I'm not sure what to think."
Right.
End quote. Other students said that Morgan was odd and would sometimes draw spooky figures and would seem aloof, while Anissa and Payton were described as being ordinary, fun-loving, and popular. They were part of independent learning programs, took part in the choir, and Payton even volunteered at the local Humane Society. Parents were wary of letting their children take part in routine, everyday kid stuff like sleepovers with their friends, play dates, or even church youth gatherings. No one knew what they could or couldn't trust.
Right.
During Payton's recovery, the members of the creepypasta community organized a fundraiser for her. They held a 24-hour live stream event on Friday, June 13th, 2014. Creepypasta narrators, authors, artists, and musicians streamed for 24 hours straight, and even all the ad revenue that was generated was given to Payton. It had taken Payton weeks to breathe normally again. She was even unable to take short walks since they'd leave her winded. Right. After 6 weeks, she was able to swim again. And the start of a new school year after her attack, she was ready to get back to normal. The family received Purple Hearts and letters of support from all over the world, purple being Payton's favorite color. Other students at the school showed their support for Payton by sporting cat whiskers on their face drawn with eyeliner because Payton loves cats.
Cute.
Payton is convinced that Anissa and Morgan were working as a team and that it was a toxic combination that fed one into the other. Payton's mother said that Morgan was often controlling and sometimes the girls would get into arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Payton said she's recovered physically, but she still works on herself mentally, and said that when she sees her scars, she sees herself and that she's come to terms with accepting them and who she is.
That's good.
Morgan had written a letter to Payton saying, quote, "Dear Bella, I wish I had words I could make everything better, but I don't, so all I can say is how sorry I am, and I promise you not a day goes by that I don't regret what I did. Stay strong." End quote. To which Payton shrugged and responded, quote, "It's a nice gesture and I appreciate it, but they're just words on a piece of paper."
I mean, she's not wrong. You can tell regret from somebody's voice or somebody's face.
Yeah.
Unless they figured out how to control it, because there are people who can do that. But yeah, on paper, you can write literally anything. You can write, "I'm a purple elephant," and as far as anybody knows, it's true.
Yeah. So Payton said she's not afraid when Anissa and Morgan eventually get out of the mental institution, because if either of them come anywhere near her, they'll go right back in. And she said she doesn't believe their release will change her life at all. She said she thanks Morgan for what she did, because if she hadn't, she wouldn't be the person she is today with the life that she has. And she said she loves her life and who she is, and that she's stronger because of it.
That's good.
When she was asked how she found the strength to crawl out of the woods, she said, "I wanted to live."
Simple.
She also said that she has a lot of good friends now, but that trust doesn't come easy to her, but she's working on it. And she supposedly started college in fall of 2020. In March of 2021, so last month, now 19-year-old Anissa appeared before the judge to ask to be released. She submitted a letter to the court saying, quote, "I hate my actions May 31st, 2014, but through countless hours of therapy, I no longer hate myself for them. I have exhausted all the resources available to me at the Winnebago Mental Health Institution. If I am to become a productive member of society, I need to be part of a society." End quote. Her lawyer said she has done well with treatment and is ready to move forward with her life, saying, quote, "She's always applied herself to anything that's been asked of her. It's very important to her that she continues to improve throughout her life and use her experiences to help others." End quote. If she is released, she still has to remain under supervision until she's 37 years old, but no longer has to be in a mental institution. In March, the judge said he wasn't prepared to rule on anything at this time, so there's a new hearing scheduled for June of this year. Meanwhile, Anissa's lawyers and doctors continue to gather the proper documentation and evidence to prove that Anissa is ready to be released to society.
Right.
And I believe there was some time last year that Morgan attempted to be a petition to be released, and it was denied.
She's likely not ready yet.
Yeah.
Because she was the longer sentence, right?
Yeah, she has the 40 years, and Anissa has the 25 years.
Yeah. And it's been, what, 7?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 7 years isn't really enough time to fully recover from schizophrenia. Maybe from shared psychosis with somebody who has schizophrenia. But
Yeah, it was weird. So in the interrogation interview, there was a section where Morgan said, "We failed at this attempt and we'll never do it again, but I hope that also means I never have to see Anissa again." So I guess she hates Anissa now.
Well, she was blaming Anissa the entire time.
Yeah. So she thinks Anissa is responsible for this whole thing. If she truly believes that, or if she was just trying to get herself off the hook, I don't know. But I know in the documentary, her mother was saying that she feels like it'd be more beneficial for her to be part of society with the medications and having the regular therapy, because she thinks about, she went in there when she was 12. She's not going to know how to drive. She's not going to know how to find a job. She's not going to know how to do any of these things. So I know her mother, both of their mothers actually are hoping that they can get out soon so they can actually learn how to be functioning members of society, but also at the same time be supervised with their therapy and their medication and things like that.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, Anissa's next hearing is in June, so we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. But for now, keep an eye over your shoulder. Keep an eye on your photos and videos. If anything shows up that wasn't there before, you might have a little trouble on your hands. Or if it starts acting up while you're filming. Just keep an eye on it. And don't trust anybody too readily. They might take you out into the woods and
do stuff.
Do bad things to you. Or leave you to Slender Man.
Yeah. And sacrifice you to Slender Man so they can be a proxy.
Yeah.
All right. If you enjoyed your tour today, please leave us a review on wherever you booked your tour. Reviews help us grow and reach more listeners so we can provide you with more tours. Remember to visit our website at nopevillepodcast.com where you'll have access to our show notes and anything we reference in today's tour. And you'll be able to find and follow us on all of our social media for updates, polls, events, or just interacting with us. So Snowfillcast on Twitter and Nopeville Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to be part of our campfire stories, which are stories you submit for us to read, either fiction or nonfiction, like Creepypasta Slenderman, if you want. You can submit them through the Contact Us form on our website and select campfire stories, or send an email to us at nopevillePodcast@gmail.com. And be sure to write campfire stories in your subject line so we know what you're emailing us about. No tour is complete without first stopping by the gift shop before you leave. Go ahead and click on the gift shop on our website and be sure to pick up a souvenir for yourself and a loved one. And last but not least, gratuity isn't required, but sure is appreciated. Visit our Patreon to see how you can support us and get some awesome rewards in return. And if you don't want to do a subscription, you can do a one-time donation on Buy Me a Coffee. So all those links are on our website.
Mm-hmm. And we'll catch you in the next tour.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. Check out all of Indie Drop-In shows at indiedropin.com. If you would like your show featured, reach out to us at Indie Drop-In on all social media or go to indiedropin.com.
We're gathered here today to join Mike and Jill in holy matrimony.
So they may file jointly this tax season.
And you are?
April from TaxAct, the tax filing software with the expert guidance to help you file for less and get more.
Works for me. So, Mike, do you take this woman to love, honor, and get her a maximum refund?
I do.
Jill?
Ditto.
I now pronounce you married, filing jointly.
I always cry at filing status updates. Switch to TaxAct today and start for free.
Restrictions apply. Price at filing subject to change. See taxact.com for details. Now extended through January 14th, join a clean and spacious Planet Fitness for zero enrollment and only $10 a month. With tons of equipment and free fitness training, it's the perfect place for everybody to work out.
Even me, mister. I'm so stressed I grind my teeth more than most people grind coffee.
Especially you. Give your anxiety-clenched jaw a rest.
My molars will be so happy.
Start feeling fit-tacular today. Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Zero enrollment, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Deal ends January 14th. See club for details.